Welcome to Sholicast, the podcast all about Lolly and Shota, including Not Safe for Work. Sholicast is hosted by me, Hydro, and Dr. X. Together, we make up Team Cyberhex. We're the developers of Insexual Awakening 1 and 2, an adult visual novel game where you play as a Shota protagonist and get into all sorts of wholesome, naughty fun with friends and family. I primarily work on the writing and planning for our games, and Dr. X works on the programming, artwork, and additional writing. If you'd like to play Insexual Awakening 1 or 2, you can download them at our official Barag at barag.net/cyberhex. You can also check out our continued development progress of Insexual Awakening 2 at our Subscribestar, which is subscribestar.adult/cyberhex. Welcome back to Sholicast. I'm Hydro, I'm with Dr. X, and in this episode, we are joined by Angie. How are you, Angie?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good tonight.
So, the first question we always start off with at every guest that we have is how you got into what you particularly enjoy. With what you create. Now, I know you told us prior to the podcast before we started that you do a lot of different things, but just tell us what got you interested in doing so many different types of art.
Oh man, ever since I was really young and I first started getting on the internet, I kind of always indulged in a plethora of different content from different creators, and not everybody was going to be drawing the same stuff, and so I kind of from an early age started out wanting to, kind of draw everything that I wanted to, instead of focusing on one or two. I think a big reason why I even got into what I'm into now is I don't know, just so many different people just showing me all the cool stuff they draw.
Is there any kind of character or relationship type or genre that you especially like making art of?
Oh, absolutely. I have been, for the past year or two, I have been obsessed with Super Jail and the twins from Super Jail. And, it's not just the incest part that I like. It's because their relationship is so strange and interesting. And it's not just pure cut romantic or just purely platonic or sexual. It's always different. And so it's nice to play around with them because you can pretty much put them in whatever scenarios you want, and it's going to kind of fit their character. Their relationship is always shown on screen to be really complicated. It's never shown as strictly platonic, strictly romantic, strictly sexual. It's almost kind of hard to place what kind of relationship they have, whether it's incestuous or just kind of, I don't know. But I've always really enjoyed their dynamic because, like I said, you can do so much with them. You're not stuck with just their romance or just their friendship. You can kind of explore whatever topics you want with them.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's kind of like a deep relationship where it's not just about the romance. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, and the show is kind of goofy and more lighthearted. So often when they are shown on screen, they're kind of shown causing chaos and doing what they do best, which is annoy the warden. But then they have those moments of vulnerability with each other on screen, and God, it just drives me wild. I love seeing it.
Super Jail came out in 2007. That was an Adult Swim show.
It's been around for a while now. Sadly, it got canceled in its 4th season, and we never got to see more though. So I don't know. The creator of the show actually has a new show out called Ball Masters, and he's made comments about possibly putting the twins in there for cameos. I'm not holding my breath, but hey, hopefully they do add that.
I like when creators do that, when they put in cameos or characters from other shows, just because as a nod to their previous creations. That's always fun.
Yeah, and I feel creators deserve to show other arts and other productions that they're proud of, especially considering Super Jail definitely got cut before it was deserving of it. We missed out on so much potential.
I always like the idea that these characters live on forever. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they're not real, so, we can make them live on forever.
Exactly. You can continue doing fan works and stuff. So it sounds like have you been doing fan works past the cancellation of the show?
Yeah. Like I said, I only really got into it recently, so I've had people actually come up to me and tell me that, like I am like keeping the Twins fandom fed with all like the content I've made, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, it's a very niche show. Not as many people are into it now as they were like years ago. So I don't know, man. I gotta keep them fed.
Yep, exactly.
There goes an example of making them live on much longer or forever. It is by you adding to it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I don't know. I like being able to add to what is essentially a dead piece of media. And I've found that the fandoms for like niche content like that tend to be a bit more chill. So I've always had better experiences just in general, kind of with smaller nicher fandoms. Plus, when it comes to like niche fandoms, it's always such a weird like little show or something. So hey, gotta always meet with the weirdos.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, because if you look like at like the more mainstream huge fandoms and the discourse that happens in it, it's kind of like
Everybody's eating each other alive, and I'm just over here with my silly little headcanons.
Exactly. Like, and that's kind of why I don't really go into the big fandoms that much, because it's like exactly because people are eating each other alive and stuff like, and I just want to have a good time.
To be fair, when I dip into fandom content, like for big fandoms especially, it's really only because of Patreon content, and I'm basically just pandering. But hey, I'm also allowed to enjoy those characters, and even if I don't really draw them otherwise.
Oh yeah, totally. That stuff's lots of fun. So would you say that you're into like incest art or stories in general?
Yeah, I often am a bit more picky when it comes to like taboo content, because what interests me more is like the story and the characters rather than the taboo content itself. So in theory, I can be into pretty much anything, really.
Oh, so it's more like that the incest, often or sometimes add that extra dynamic that attracts you to their character because it makes things more interesting or more complicated or more complex. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I like complicating things. I don't know why, but it's always been really cathartic for me to like trying to explore complicated relationships through fiction.
Well, that's interesting. So I know that one kind of relationship type that you see in fiction that can be kind of complicated is like the kind of relationship between rivals or enemies. Is that something that you also interested in?
Oh, absolutely. I think enemies to lovers was like my first like ship trope that I absolutely fell in love with. And even to this day, like enemies ex-lovers is something that I'm still very much into. I find it hard not to ship the villain with the hero sometimes.
Oh, can you remember any examples of those ships from like earlier on for you?
Oh, absolutely. I think actually my first hero X villain ship ever was Zim and Dib, and even to this day, I absolutely love that.
Oh yeah, they had an interesting relationship in the show.
Yeah, and the reason why it was so interesting, I think, also is because they are codependent. Like they're written to be codependent, and codependency is always such an interesting topic to like discuss.
That in the movie it was kind of. But basically, Dib was kind of he was like held up in his room, and he didn't know where Zim was, and like he basically like had no purpose.
Dude turned himself into a chair because his alien lover was hiding in a toilet for a year.
Yep.
Dedication, dude.
Sounds like they complete each other.
They pretty much do.
Oh, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. Without each other, they have no purpose. And specifically in the episode that was never finished, Mopiness of Doom, it's really shown there because Div moves on to science because that's what his dad wants. And Zim has nothing going on for him, so he just becomes depressed and stops doing basically anything. And that's until Dib comes back and he finally gets his mojo back. So to me, that just kind of proves that, like, even if they aren't romantically involved, they need each other.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I can totally see why that would attract people into shipping them.
Yeah, that's actually the fandom. One of the biggest things, like in the Zader fandom, is Mopiness of Doom, because for a lot of people, that kind of proves to them at least that, even if, like I said, they're not romantically involved, they need each other. And that's enough for people.
Oh, it absolutely is, because some people will be just fine exploring the friendship angles of characters as well, even if the romance doesn't happen for them in their headcanon or even in the canon itself, they're absolutely fine with that.
I don't know, man. Shipping is just so interesting. It's been one of those things that I've done for a long time now, even if I never drew about it back then.
You did shipping stuff, or you were interested in shipping even when you were young?
Oh yeah, I started my career in art back in mid 2014. And back then I started out with drawing creepypasta stuff. And I wasn't really into shipping back then. But even then, like, there was still characters I thought really went cute. Like, they were cute together. And one of them I remember specifically was an Undertale ship that I had a really long time ago, and it was Error Sands and Blueberry Sands, like the polar opposites there. I think this is making me realize that opposites attract is like another big thing for me when it comes to shipping.
I'm trying to remember which characters those were.
Aren't they like kind of like fan created versions of those characters?
Yeah, they're AU versions of Sands.
Okay.
It's still Sands in both. Like, so that was my first self-cessed ship. Oh my goodness. Baby's first self-cessed. But yeah, that was like the only ship I had from Undertale, honestly. Even though it wasn't really related to canon in any way.
So for self-shipping, what can you tell us more about it? Is it usually like alternate versions of the character, or is it sometimes even like a clone of the character?
So when it comes to AU versions, it's like the character, but like they're a different personality, different looks, different backstory, pretty much anything that you could think of to make them different from the original in some way.
Interesting.
It's just like alternate universe stuff, you know?
Hydro, have you ever done self-shipping yourself?
Of characters that I can think of, I wouldn't say I have, but I can think of like from different NSFW art that I've enjoyed. I know that like there's Zelda from Ocarina of Time with Zelda from Breath of the Wild, because they're two kind of they're not totally different personalities, but they look a lot different, and they behave a little differently. So I can definitely see the appeal there. Same with like the two Bayonettas from the two different time frames and stuff like that. But you're more talking about like actual the same character but from totally different, like where they have like totally different personalities. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I've gotten into that I was interested in, but I can definitely see the appeal of that though.
Oh yeah, and when it comes to self-cessed, I tend to be just into that regardless of like whether or not like, you know, the other version of the same person is different or not. Just because, I don't know, man, fucking yourself is funny. so I gotta enjoy it.
I'm with you on that. Actually, I want to say like I almost like have like a tier list of kind of like where like the self-cess stuff gets really fun. Like the Bayonetta one, for example. I remember it from it was like a short comic somebody did of like past Bayonetta and future Bayonetta or something like that. And
I would fuck herself too.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it was funny, because it makes a lot of sense she would do that. And one of them, of course, had a penis, so they had to do that.
Yes, of course.
But what made it so fucking funny was in the comic, you know, she's fucking herself, and then she has a condom on, and then you see like an internal shot, and the condom breaks, and she like jizzes inside herself, and then you see they make this funny expression at the end where they're just like, shit.
Damn, bro, the self-cessed baby is real.
And I loved that comic, and I was just like, man, self-cess is so great. It's so amusing when it's done like this. It's a lot of fun.
You could make like any self-cessed ship goofy if you ask me. I don't know. And I don't know, for some reason what just popped into my head was Homelander x Homelander, because Homelander would fuck himself, let's be real. Dude has enough of an ego.
Yes.
I don't even know anything about Homelander. I just know he's like an awful person with like a huge ego, and I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
I guess that would make sense because he already has a pretty high opinion of himself.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, who would be the perfect person for himself other than himself?
It's me, baby. It's me, only me.
I think I read that you're also into age gap stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, but like I said before, with like other things, like I'm more into the characters and the dynamics more than the age gap itself. So I think one, actually no, I can think of multiple actually off the top of my head that I like. But two of them that come to mind specifically are Rick and Morty, because of course, and then Gaz, Diggsy, and Ace Ambling from Ballmasters.
I've always wondered about the Ricky and Morty stuff. I've kind of seen it like on the internet. It's kind of floating around the internet wherever there's like Rick and Morty spaces, right? But
Yeah.
What can you say? What attracts people to that relationship or ship? Because I haven't actually seen the show.
So basically, most of the Ricks, as far as I'm aware from other universes, they don't care about Ricks. They don't care about other Ricks. They don't care about other Mortys, other Summers. But C-137 in particular, he cares. He cares about his Morty. He loves his Morty. He loves his Summer. And, he probably even cares about Jerry to some extent, which is really funny to think about. And it kind of puts him, at not odds, but it makes him different from all the other Ricks because he cares, unlike everybody else. And it's so obvious just how much he cares because especially in the Toxic episode where basically Rick and Morty go to this spa planet and get their toxins removed. And it's obviously they don't know what to remove for the toxins. So it's obviously everybody's individual idea of what is toxic. And what Rick thinks is toxic is his attachment to Morty. And so at the near the ending of that episode, Toxic Rick is upset because Toxic Morty got shot and is dying, and he can't really do anything to save him except for merge with, the clean Rick now. And so he does that just to save like Toxic Morty's life, even if that's not what happens at the end. And I don't know. But just besides that, though, you can see how much Rick cares, for Morty, because in another episode, they're kind of outside of time and they need to find their way back. And at some point, the way that they get back breaks for Morty. So Rick sacrifices his own way back just to get Morty back.
Oh yeah, I can see why people would like it because of like how much that Rick cares for Morty.
Yeah, they're very much like codependent, I suppose, as well, because without Morty, Rick is miserable.
Now that you talk about that, like I thought what it more was is just the two personalities were so different from each other because Morty's more timid and a little more neurotic, whereas Rick is more like confident and aggressive and stuff. So I thought that's what it was.
It's definitely not wrong though, because it's probably part of the reason why some people like it for sure.
And what else I think is interesting is with their dynamic, I think those kinds of relationships where people find an attraction to it, it's more of like it's an undercurrent. In other words, it's not shown at the surface very often, or sometimes not at all, but you can infer it, or you can get the sense of it through all the different adventures and the different things that they go through, like those episodes you were talking about, like going to the Toxic, having their toxins removed, and like you could just from all the things that happen there, you could tell that okay, this Rick is different in terms of that he does care about Morty because he's doing all these things that are very much normally any of the other Ricks would not do.
No, because other Ricks, they would just get a new Morty. Because that's what they do. They just go to another universe, find a new Morty to replace the one that died. That's, what most Ricks would do. It's fucked up, but, when you put it in just perspective, it changes quite a bit.
It almost seems to imply that that's the main difference with this Rick. That like that's the one thing that separates him out of all the other Ricks.
And I'm going to speak about another episode here that actually shows that too, because there's this thing called the Citadel of Ricks. It's basically like a government of Rick and Morty's, despite the fact that they hate the government, they made a government. Don't even question it. But Rick gets accused of killing a bunch of other Ricks from other universes, and the Council of Ricks calls him a rogue Rick, compassionate, and because he cares about his Rick, because he cares about his Rick, he cares about his Morty, he cares about his Summer, he's different, and they hate him the most because of that.
I didn't know anything about that, like you said, Dr. X. You were going to say that you had no idea about that. I didn't either.
Yeah, I had no idea about the kind of timeline thing and the fact that this particular Rick that features most in the show is the one who cares about Morty and the other characters, but especially Morty. I had no idea about that. So like I definitely understand it more now because how that this particular Rick is so different from the others and that he cares about Morty instead of just kind of thinking of him as like a tool or something that can be replaced.
Yeah, and that's like I think also a big reason why people ship them is because he's different. He cares about his Morty, and it makes it more fun to ship. Though there will be people who ship Morty with Rick Prime, who is really evil and bad. But that's like huge spoilers, so I don't think I'm going to talk too much about that. But people really like him as well because he's also different from the rest of the Ricks, but in a very not good way.
Now I think you remember I remember you mentioning Ball Masters as well, and I saw some of it, and I definitely see some, well, for me personally, some shipping potential between. It was such a long time ago that I forgot the names of the characters.
The bull haircut kid is named Ace, and then the lady with the tan skin, the white hair, her name is Gaz.
Yes, I definitely support the shipping of those two.
Yeah, their dynamic is great, and part of the reason why I started shipping them is because of, Angie, Recap Kid, whatever you're going to call them.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what? You're so fucking right. They deserve to be together. Yes.
I think especially works for this show because, like, okay, you're growing up, I guess especially, for people like me or Hydro, where you remember growing up and you'd watch cartoons and there'd be like a boy character and, he has a crush on an older girl character or something. And, it never go anywhere, usually. And you kind of wanted it to go somewhere. But I think Ball Masters is more like an adult show. So it's not like you have to adhere to the rating of the show or anything by any means, but it's kind of like it makes it a little more interesting because you can see a little bit more potential in the show to explore those topics. Because it's not a kids show, it's a more adult show.
It is nice too because they have joked about that before. Gaz gets turned into a vampire at one point and tries to suck Ace's blood, and Ace starts freaking out. So everybody comes to his room and is disgusted because they think Ace is trying to get it on with Gaz. And so Baby Ball's like, hey, I guess dreams do come true. It's kind of heavily implied that Ace is really into Gaz, and it's a funny little bit right there for sure.
Yes, that's good.
It's really great.
I like it when shows like I'm not familiar with Ball Masters, although it looks like a pretty amusing show. It says it came out in 2018. Is that the correct one?
Nope, that's it. There's actually Ball Masters Rubicon, which actually came out this year, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah, like I appreciate shows that, well, especially now, like that, Dr. X and I being, us writing so much, especially for Insexual Awakening 1 and 2, we really appreciate it when character relationships and dynamics go into more depth. Especially when you get shows that might be, kind of like maybe a really comical show or a more off the wall show or whatever, but then they like put in these moments of having really nice character dynamics or relationship building. That's fun. That adds another layer to a show and improves it. And I always like that. Yeah, and that's why, like, certain relationships, like, for example, I would say probably when I was younger, I know Ash and Misty kind of always drove me fucking nuts that they never, like, got any kind of, like, relationship building, at least in the early old series. And that sort of stuff drove me nuts.
The tension's crazy.
Oh, yeah, they got big time tension. And like the only time you got like one little thing was in Pokemon the movie 2000, I believe, where Misty says something about Ash. And I'm just like, that this is really all we get? Like this shows how badly starved we are when we think that this is the best thing ever when she says this.
You're getting just a taste of what you deserve.
Because they need to taste each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, like sometimes you get like this crazy tension between characters, and it makes it way worse when they don't go anywhere with it. So it's like you almost wonder is it, well, I think in the case of Pokemon, I think it's more just, they were just like, no, we can't develop anything because then we got to make some more episodes. We got to make lots of filler and stuff.
Gotta make all that filler, guys. Gotta make that money.
So that might be a reason. But I almost wonder if some shows don't do it because maybe they're hesitant to do it, or maybe they're not comfortable with trying to develop a relationship more, and so they're just like, well, I don't want to do it because I don't think I'll be able to write it correctly, and then they don't do it. I wonder if that ever happens.
It could also be the potential for backlash, because sometimes when a specific ship that like fandom loves doesn't become canon, people lose their minds.
Or I wonder, yes, that is a good point. That's probably the bit, but also what about let's say there is a show, well, probably Ballmasters would be example of this. What if you had a show that, was all about action and violence or whatever it could be? In other words, it's something that does not necessarily focus on ships or character relationships that much, and then all of a sudden they start adding in more of that dynamic. It kind of reminds me of, it's a good example, Futurama.
Oh yeah.
The fandom, for some reason, there's a large chunk, or at least I seem to get this sense from the fandom, there's a large chunk of the fandom that thinks that the dynamic between Fry and Leela, that they don't want them to be together, or they're not interested in it at all. That they think it sucks, or they just are very indifferent to it, or they hate it.
I've noticed that.
And it's very odd, but I mean,
Yeah.
people can feel that way about it, but I just think it's strange to think that way.
I especially think so in this case too, because like they've been hinted at being made canon like in the show for a while before they even were made canon. So it's just like, I don't know, man. Do you use your inferring skills here?
I wonder if it's like people who like, I just want to laugh, bro. I don't want any of this stupid romance shit.
But it's interesting because but it's so weird because Futurama has like genuinely like in-depth emotional moments. So what's the problem? This isn't really anything new for the show.
I wonder if like people are putting friendship and romance into like very like distant categories.
They might be.
You're right though, Angie, in that Futurama has had a ton of emotional moments. Like, I mean, I still can't watch that episode with Fry's dog.
Dude, that's literally the episode I was going to mention, because that's the one I was thinking of.
I can't handle that episode, and I mean it does show the Doge later on in like the movie.
Yeah.
But it's still that episode like is like everybody, most of the Futurama fandom, like that they never shit on that episode because they think it's an amazing episode. So, and also in the first movie they made, there was that older Fry. That was also really, really good too. But see, they keep kind of like removing all the canonical things that happen, and even at the series finale in air quotes, that now it's like back in that episode, it was Fry and Leela actually got like essentially married and go off into the sunset and got older, and that was the end. That was supposed to be technically like the conclusion of their relationship, but I love how at the end the professor's just like, oh well, no, we're just gonna erase all your memories and you won't remember anything that happens at all.
I like that they did that though, because it made room for the new season.
Yes, it did make room for it, but it also made room for like their just it being more like getting stuck in that loop of that there won't be necessary, like how could I say it? Like in other words, it might get stuck in that whole, well, we're gonna avoid the relationship stuff with Fry and Leela for a long time, or at least we can get away with doing that.
Yeah, that's true. In the new seasons, I've only watched a couple of episodes. They don't do that. They stick with their guns and they're still in a relationship.
That's good. I'm glad they did that, because I respect them a lot more for sticking with their guns.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's very fascinating to see some shows don't commit to the relationship stuff and others do, and very fascinating how these different writers and different creators do that. And
Yeah.
you can see where all the shipping fandoms they swirl around like a maelstrom. There's just so many because of all of that, all of those different scenarios.
I mean, look at the Pokemon fandom. They have one thing that fascinates me about shipping culture is all the shipping names, and there's so many fucking shipping names for the Pokemon fandom. Because Ash is he's going to all these different regions and getting some new hoe that people ship him with.
Ash is getting some new hoes.
And of course, he gets, Ash gets shipped with a Brock and all his male friends as well. So there's millions and millions of shipping names.
Yo,
Pokemon's wild.
Yeah, there's so many characters in it. I actually kind of like that aspect.
Dude, Ash is getting serious pussy. This dude is insane. Actual CEO of sex.
Yes. He's had sex with everyone, including Pikachu, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, that's right, because there were Pokemon that were definitely after his dick too.
Chikorita.
Yeah, yes, big time.
Sounds bad for humans. But also, I want to be realistic. If there wasn't any Pokophilia, would it really be Pokemon shipping?
It's such a hallmark of the Pokemon fandom now.
It's been prevalent for over a decade, so I don't think it's going anywhere. And if it was, then I'd be confused.
It's gonna increase, thankfully.
Yeah,
So,
if anything, it's grown and more and more and more.
Oh, it has. I've seen so much Pokepussy, dude.
I mean, I love it. It's great.
Pokepussy, 10 out of 10.
and every single generation, though, they just add more and more. Though, Game Freak, I'm calling you out in this episode. You better have voice acting for the next mainline game. I swear to God, you better have voice acting.
There's no voice acting. He'll cry.
Well, it's because the storytelling. In our opinion, me and Hydra's opinion, storytelling in the new Pokemon games have been better and more emotional and more interesting, and the cutscene have been getting more complex and better cinematics and stuff. So it's getting increasingly jarring when there's no voice acting, because you have this emotional scene.
It's just silent.
They're just flapping their mouths open and closed, but there's no sound coming out, and it's just it's very distracting.
It's like a horror movie setup.
Yeah, it's almost like that.
It's super jarring because, like Dr. X said, you get all these really nice animations on the characters' movements, and that they got all the emotion in their face and stuff, and yet you don't hear any of them talking. Just crickets
in the background while they flap their lips at you.
Yeah, so it's the way things are going, I can only expect the next mainline Pokemon game will have even more emotion, or at least the same amount of good storytelling, at least for a Pokemon game. So, and it's it's gonna get more and more weird if there's no voice acting.
Well, I mean, it's because you were expecting it because it's what they used to do, but I don't know, man. I don't know why they would stop doing it.
Yeah. Now on the subject of the friendship and the romance thing, what I feel like, and I think Hydro agrees with me, is that if a series goes on long enough and you see all these deep friendships and character relationships, but by the end all of them are just friends and none of them hook up, because we've read a manga that's like that.
Oh man, I would be so mad.
Yeah.
And then you hear the 80s song, "Don't You Forget About Me." And they're doing the air jump, a freeze frame.
Fuck's sake.
And it's distracting because in real life, if you have all these, because there's several characters, and they have these strong friendships, and the characters mean the world to each other and stuff, but none of them get in a relationship.
It's very unrealistic, let's be real. In real life, at least 4 of them would be together, and you know what I mean, 2 of them in one relationship, 2 of them in another. I think that would be more realistic than having none of them be together. A lot of the time, relationships start with friendship. Are we just gonna ignore that?
Exactly, and it made me and Hydra wonder, is the author just afraid to write that stuff, or do they not like romance, or it just makes me wonder. And of course, it's perfectly fine if someone wants to make that kind of thing as just focus on friendship and stuff. It just makes me wonder. But I would like I said, I definitely agree. I definitely think that it's, for me, I want a little romance in that kind of situation, because if it's not in there, it feels distracting because it's not realistic, as you said.
Yeah, I want just a little bit of smooching, please.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, in the case of the manga that Dr. X and I are talking about, like there were moments where you were just like, okay, come on, like this is supposed to be friendship,
Quote unquote.
and it's like that's as far as they go. It's like, yeah, I have a feeling it, because it's like even the other characters. That's right, Dr. X. Like, I know what, you probably know which two characters I'm talking about, but there were even moments where other characters are just like, oh, all you two are, you're hanging out in bed together, and just like, oh, no, it's not what you think.
That's how they did snuggles.
So it's like you can tell that like the even the author is aware of like how it seems like, but then at the end they're just happy friends, and there's no fucking, no sex, no romance.
La-di-da-di-da, fuck you.
Yeah, and that's why, it kind of goes back to Ash and Misty. Like you said, their tension is off the charts at a lot of points, and in Pokemon the movie 2000, it really seems to imply heavily that Misty has feelings for Ash, and then that just kind of goes nowhere, or at least as far as I know, it goes nowhere.
So this girl bullies him because, like, it's very clear she likes him, and of course it goes nowhere. Love it.
But that's because, like, Ash is often oblivious anyway.
Yeah, he's kind of stupid as fuck. So...
Man, what would have happened, though, because there is one, which girl was it? There was one girl that did kiss Ash, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Do you remember, Dr. X, who it was? It took place in a mall.
It might have been, I don't know, it might have been Serena or something. I don't know. I haven't watched much of the anime past the first season.
Man, if Misty was there, I don't even know what I would have loved to have seen her reaction. She probably would have freaked out.
Excuse me, sir, those are my boy lips. Or ma'am, those are my boy lips.
She would have thrown her bike at her, and then that would have been the end of the person.
Fish fit time.
Would have been isekai'd.
Gets isekai'd because you dared to mess with Misty's man.
I was thinking of when I was watching Legend of Korra. I remember, okay, there is one ship I did get heavily invested in way back, and that well, not way back, but when Legend of Korra was out, was Korra Sami, which was Korra and the Sami. And what was interesting about that one was the show creators were trying to be more overt with it, but they were hesitant to do so because they weren't sure if the Nickelodeon executives would okay it, because it was marketed to an internet. There's a whole crazy story about like what happened, and essentially what occurred was the final episode was going to be coming out, and they asked the Nintendo executives. They said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to Korra and Asami are going to be together in a relationship. Is that okay?" And the Nintendo execs apparently hadn't even been watching the show. They didn't even know what was going on in the plot. I'm just like, wow, that's a smart move to do that, being the people who decide what everything is done. And then they go, and they were really surprised by it, and they were just like, tread carefully, because they were probably nervous about certain international markets or whatever. And so anyway, what ended up happening was, I remember the final episode aired, and it was like really exciting, really emotional for me. I remember I was like,
they didn't even kiss.
Nope, they didn't. And what ended up happening was the classic maelstrom, except this maelstrom was this is so funny. On the wiki for Legend of Korra, there was a back and forth battle. Like, I mean, it was like it was like war between the editors, where some people that they'd go on to Korra or Asami's profile and they would say relationship status, and it would say in a relationship with Korra or in a relation with, and then a person would erase it and be like, no, that is not confirmed. That is not 100% true. And so what had to happen was the creators had to come out and do what they call the word of God, which means that the creators will say, yes, they are in a relationship, that's what we intended, and that's what it is. And then finally it got changed. But even then, people were still angry about it.
But I feel like it was so clear that that's what their intentions were at the end there.
But it was just a fascinating, it was such a crazy time then, because it was like all these people that were denying it and were like, well, they were coming up with all these different things like, well, there was never any hinting at it, and there was throughout the last season especially, and even seasons before that, and then there were other people who were just like, well, I couldn't tell because the show was so poorly written. I couldn't tell anyway. They were coming up with all these different reasons why, and I was just like, wow, man, that was my first exposure to how crazy the shipping wars get.
The cope is insane.
It was also like it was my first exposure to anti shippers, like people who just don't want relationships at all. I mean, there were people who were having like really visceral reactions, like they were just like, well, Legend of Korra was terrible with relationships anyway, and they were like listing off all the terrible like relationships that were created in the show, and it was so wild. It was nuts.
People use like any excuse possible just to be like a salty, annoying hoe over shipping. Frankly, I've seen so many dumb excuses for why, like, oh, you can't ship that, it's not canon.
Who cares? Cares if it's not canon or not to begin with.
Canon is apparently law to some people. That means I just can't imagine those people are very fun.
It reminds me of the people who are like, this character is canonically 15 or whatever.
Not in my head, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why can't I age them up, or why can't I ship them while they're still 15? Why does it fucking matter?
Yeah, why can't I make this character like 20? Though, like, who's gonna stop me?
It's like they're like frozen in time or something, according to some people.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so weird. Have you ever heard of aging, time passing, any of that possibly?
Like, and that the aging exists in the universe that they come from. So,
Well, fuck you and your canon and your head canon, because it doesn't fit mine.
Now, Hydra, when you talked about anti-shippers, were you talking about people who didn't want any romance in the show at all?
It was like, yeah. There were some people like that, but there were also people who just, when I say anti-shippers, I mean people who like, these are people who basically don't consider anyone to be in a ship unless it is like the most lowest common denominator kind of setup. And what I mean by that is there's like, they're not in a ship until I hear them both say they love each other, and they also have to kiss, and they also like in other words, it's all this like very basic derivative stuff of like, and they don't need any build up. They don't need any like actual development. they just need to have their characters say it, like and stuff like that. And it was just really funny to have people act that way.
But that's what makes the ship so good and pure and clean and.
And I mean you can do that and that's fine, but I guess it's like this is kind of the writer in me coming out, where like I gotta have gradual build up and like slow burn, and then like it's so much more satisfying when it finally happens. And I'm not necessarily a fan of, but you can still do it, of course. It depends. It all depends on the context, but it's like, people who are against it are people who are like, well, look, this show is about Korra finding her balance with the other avatars, and it shouldn't be about a romance or anything, because that's not what the show is about. And it's just really, really funny, because I'm just like, well, wait a minute, but I thought isn't the whole reason why you want to watch this show is because you care about the characters? Like that's got to be the most important thing. Would you really care how the story goes if you didn't, if none of the characters mattered to you? Would you really care what happens in the story? No.
No.
If you care about the story is like, the story just drives the characters, but you're interested in watching what the characters are going through and what happens with them and all their dynamics. You can just tell when there's people who clearly don't know much about how to write characters or how to write dynamics and relationships and stuff, but they want to like, and the excuse, or I remember one of the things they say is they go, well, you don't have to be a Michelin star chef to say if food is good or bad. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a classic one. Yeah, I've heard that before.
It's just okay. Fuck it out, people.
But that's a big reason why like I don't get involved in ships in the communities of shippers. I have my own personal ships. I do have one that Dr. X knows about right now, that's a big one, but I don't want to spoil anything or mention it, but like I don't get involved in the communities at all, because I know what it can, I know the craziness, and if people want to be part of it, it's tons of fun, but you just have to be careful, because it can get wild.
Count your blessings for every day you haven't received a death threat.
I think I usually don't get into, well, part of the reason why I don't get into fandoms is because I should say in a certain kind of the mainstream part of a fandom is because as we talked about, some people are a little sensitive about certain character relationship types or character types. So, but if I go into fucking Barag or something, no one's gonna give a shit if I ship two characters together, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm perfectly fine just hanging out in law and Shota spaces, because they're gonna be the most accepting community out there for whatever you want in your fiction.
That's fair. Though I tend to hang around like normal people, because even if they don't like Lolicon, they don't give nearly enough of a shit to do anything about it. So, I've been servers with people who absolutely despise it, but they just don't care. They have issues. They have real problems.
Yeah, most people don't actually care about your ship or whatever you want in your fiction, and it's kind of an illusion that most people care about it, because you go on Twitter blah, 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 and you see all that stuff getting boosted because it's controversial. But in reality, most people don't really care about that stuff. So the
majority of people that you're going to meet, sure, they might have a strong opinion on oh, that's gross and immoral, but for the most part, they're not gonna care, really. In reality, even if they have their opinion on it, they're not gonna care.
Yeah. So anyone who's feels kind of insecure or kind of nervous about what they ship or the art they make in fiction, just know that
the majority of people don't care.
Exactly. So it's don't be taken in by the illusion on Twitter or other places that the majority of people care about that stuff, when they really don't.
Those are the kind of people who are living in an echo chamber anyway, who think that being this disgusted over fiction is normal. It's not.
Definitely most people don't care about I mean, you can ask your older relatives whether they care, and they're not.
My mom does not. My mom does not care. I've talked to her about this many, many times, and she doesn't care because none of it's real, and that's her stance.
Yeah. Oh, so you talked to your mom about it. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've always had a very supportive mom, so I was never really scared to mention it to her. And mostly what I would talk about is getting harassed over it, and she thinks it's really stupid because it's not real. Nobody's getting hurt, so she doesn't understand why you would harm somebody else for it. She's simply too normal to be understanding of that argument.
It sounds like you have a very logical and level-headed mom.
Yeah, my mom's pretty nice. I'm very lucky to have a mom like that too, because not everybody is blessed with a nice parent.
So have you shown your mom your art and stuff?
Oh yeah, she knows what I draw.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, obviously there's some things I won't show her, but she knows I draw them anyway. Like, it's not, that part doesn't really change.
Oh, that's cool. So your mom's
Nice.
so accepting of the art and work you do. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, she sees how much I love art and she sees how much it helps me. So to her, why should she care? Not like she's the one drawing.
Yeah, all parents need to be like that, honestly.
My mom has just always been that way, though. Like, she knows I love art. She's not going to stop me from drawing. So,
The one great thing that has come out of, the internet and communities like Brag and, even goofy Twitter, X.
ew. Don't even call it that.
And like Reddits and stuff like that is you can or Discord too. I mean, Discord's my go-to, but like basically,
Discord's great.
Except for that goofy thing they're possibly gonna put in place to protect people, but that's a whole nother topic. But what I do like is there's so many different communities that exist now that you can find a place where you can talk with like-minded people who like the same stuff you do, and so even if you could be in a community where people don't necessarily like the stuff you're talking about, or they're against it but they don't care about it, you can also find other communities where they do like it and they do want to talk about it, and you have a wide variety of choice now, and it's great, and it's only going to get more and more as time goes on.
Oh yeah, it's really nice, and I'm really lucky because I'm in a lot of servers where I can just openly be weird and gross, and people are like, hell yeah, you go, girl.
Yeah, and that's a great thing that people who might feel a little pessimistic or down should keep in mind, is that it's like more than ever, like you can find your people now, and people who accept you, and there's more and more places like that, like all those Discord servers that Angie mentioned, or Barag or Athey, and all those other different sites that, in a lot of ways, it's more accessible now, and it's just a click away to find people who like the same shit as you and stuff.
Being able to find like-minded people is always so refreshing too, because sometimes you kind of get caught up in like the negativity of those who may not agree with you, and you start kind of being like, well, maybe they're right, but then you kind of find your crowd and you're like, huh, this is where I belong. I don't need that negativity. This is where I belong.
Exactly. You hang out with your homies and you realize that actually things are not so bad.
Yeah, and I'm very lucky to have real life friends who, support my art and, support the things that I like to make in art. Because, sometimes that's a very worrying thing, because those people know you and they have more of a chance to shit on you for what you like. Mm-hmm. So when you find people who aren't going to do that, it's very nice. You feel safe.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. It's nice too, because I can talk to them about it and they understand. They're like, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's kind of why we started the podcast, is that, not everyone has that, has friends in real life like that. And so this podcast can kind of be like, almost like as if you're in the room with us talking about this stuff, and kind of realize that you're really not alone in liking this stuff, whatever it may be, whatever kind of taboo fiction you like, Shota Lolly, incest, non-con, whatever. Doesn't really matter.
There's freaks everywhere who are going to like the same thing that you do.
Exactly.
Just gotta find them.
Yeah, and look at like Dr. X and I. We have the IA community, and that's a huge community that was formed from just fellow fans loving the games that we made, and it's just cool. It's just super cool that they exist now. So they're able to talk with each other and have fun, and that's honestly how a lot of communities start. They're like, somebody will just want to start up a fandom about whatever. Look at Undertale, for example. Look at how huge that fandom got. And I'm sure there was somebody had to come up with a ship initially, or some kind of dynamic, and then other people joined in and agreed with it, or just got excited about it, and it just that's how it builds from there.
I mean, yeah, most of the time when like groups like that form, they form because like they want the community. They like having fun. They want to find other people who, want to have the same kind of fun that they're having.
Yeah, and so what I recommend for anyone feels a little lonely or something along those lines for liking whatever kind of content, just seek out those communities and make friends. Like, it's super important that you have someone to talk to who understands and will accept you and not be judgmental and stuff.
And trust me when I say these people are more than likely going to be very welcoming because they want to find more people who have their interests. Don't be afraid to show your interests to the same people who have your interests.
Exactly, and I met the fucking nicest and greatest people in these communities. Like, they're fucking awesome.
I know, right? I think if I had never joined communities like this, I probably would have never found like my place,
Oh yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I don't even know where I'd be at if I didn't, I mean, I found out about, Dr. X and I basically discovered each other through me working on IA. If I never had worked on IA, if I never had taken that step to develop it, probably wouldn't have even known about Dr. X. And I mean, it's just amazing to think about, like just how differently things would have been. But you got to take that, you got to take that leap, or you got to take that step to be like, you know what, I want to like get into a community, or I want to do this kind of project and see, what other people like. I mean, it makes me think of Dr. X and I have been talking about this game, the Curious Coffin of, what was it? It's
the Coffin of Alex and Lele or whatever.
Yes.
Yes, that game has been all over the internet. And speaking of my IRL friends, they actually talked to me about it because they had heard like so many controversies about it, and they think it's stupid, and they wanted to know why it's so apparently bad.
Well, it's there you go. Like, I mean, look at how much of a huge community is formed from that one person's game, and that person sticking to their guns.
Which I fucking love that. I love that they double down on the incest stuff. And they're proud of the fiction they make, and they're not going to make any apologies or excuses or whatever. I
love it too, because horror is like, it's meant to be horrifying. It's meant to be kind of gross and like repulse you. If it's doing that, it's doing its job.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they're not like, they're not saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll change it" or something like that. So that's awesome. and I also like that from a kind of meta standpoint, that I like that because this game is popular and it seems to be a good game, or at least well loved by a lot of people. Is that?
Oh yeah, the ratings on Steam are like very positive.
One of the things I like about that situation is that I think it's going to soften people's hearts a little bit towards fictional incest, which is great.
Oh yeah, it would be really nice because people freak out about it way too much when it's shown very often.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, I just don't get it.
And so I'm definitely thankful for the game, which I definitely need to play at some point, especially since it's kind of relevant for this podcast, so we can talk about all this taboo fiction content all the time. But anyways, I'm thankful for the game because I feel like it will help, make people realize, well, it's it's fiction, whatever. And they don't need to get up in arms about incest, and it's the fact that the game is good that I think matters a lot.
Oh yeah, because like there's a lot of like games that might involve like incest and stuff, but they're not very well written, and it gives more people an excuse to hate on it, even if it's not their main reason for hating it. Really, like they're like, oh well, this is a more palatable reason to hate on this game, so hey, let's do it like this instead. So I do like it when the creators stick to your guns, like you said, because, it's their game. They get to decide what goes in it. Simple as.
Yes, and they have plenty of fans, so they don't need to, bow down to the haters and stuff. So you
don't need to cater to the haters.
Exactly. Cater to your fans or cater to yourself. Make it whatever makes you happy.
Exactly.
A lot of the time when you passionately make stuff that you like, other people will see that, and they'll see the passion that you put into the stuff, and and they like your stuff. So that's really what's most important.
Definitely, I'd have to agree, because you could only like make content for other people for so long before I feel like it gets kind of boring. Because like, art, I feel like should be kind of personal sometimes. And maybe like some people don't care as much about that. They like making things for other people. But I do think it's important to kind of make stuff for yourself sometimes. Because I feel like if you're making things for others constantly, it can get really frustrating. It can feel more like work than a hobby. And I've definitely dealt with those feelings before when just like catering to what everybody else wants rather than drawing what I want. So yeah, don't fall into that hole because it's not fun.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good idea for people to try to make time to make stuff that they like, even if they're someone who does commissions for people and stuff like that, or they have some other kind of like work commitment they have to do. Try to make time for you to explore your own passions as well is what I recommend. It's definitely important for a person's mental health, I feel like.
Oh yeah, and because like even if I do commissions and Patreon work, I still draw stuff for myself sometimes, and the same could be said for my friend who does the same. Like he doesn't do commissions; he is strictly full-time Patreon art. But sometimes he will draw like his own secret like kinks and fetishes on like his side account still. And it's not as much anymore because he doesn't have the time for it, but he does still do it sometimes. It's nice to see because he deserves to, take a break.
Oh, absolutely. So that was a great time with you, Angie, and it was great talking to you about a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, this was a fun convo.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to a lot of our episodes have been focused on Lolly and Shota, but the other part of the taboo fiction stuff is also very interesting, and kind of like the stuff on the sides as well as shipping is super interesting. And what's great about this episode is that we were able to talk about all these topics, but with the extra element of being very non-judgmental.
Yeah, I am very pro kink, and you could pretty much show me any kink art and I'd be like, hey, that's pretty epic. Because even if I'm not personally into it, I would probably still draw it for a commission anyway.
Oh yeah, I totally have the same sentiment in terms of people can make whatever they want, and maybe I'm not personally into it, but if you make something that really resonates with you and you like it, that's awesome.
Yeah, and you could always see like the love people put into personal art, and I think maybe that's why sometimes I prefer it.
Oh yeah, I totally know what you mean.
The other thing too is when you like go into your personal art and you like really commit to it, it's almost like people almost get like a second sense or like a third sense that like you have strong conviction in like this art that you created or what this particular kink that you're going for, and people are just like, yeah, they can feel the love you put into it and they have that same love. Right. So that's the reason why like I definitely appreciate people who if they're into a certain kink and they commit to it, I'm just like, go for it because I can totally see how other people will be attracted to that.
Oh, for sure. It's funny because like what I get commissions for most of the time is actually like death and like snuff. And it's not even like the thing that I draw the most. It's just that I think I'm one of the only artists out there who like does it. And they like, they find me and they're like, hey, this artist does it. We finally found somebody who's like gonna draw it for us. And I think it's nice. I like being able to provide that for people.
That's cool. Yeah, that is great that, they, especially now it's a little easier to find people who will make the kink you want represented in art. And it's great. It's also great that you find value in providing that for people.
Well, it's also just fun for me because it gives me a challenge. Like, I don't usually draw gore or I don't usually draw X, Y, and Z. So this kind of takes me out of my comfort zone, and that's nice sometimes.
Now, are you currently taking commissions?
Yes, I am.
So if people want to contact you, either to see your art or commission you or anything like that, where can they find you?
I'm mostly active on Twitter and Discord, but I do have a website which links to all of my social media. You're gonna mostly find the taboo content on websites like InkBuddy, Pixiv, and mostly Brag. But you can find all of my content posted, on like something like Twitter, or I also use DeviantArt. I don't post Not Safe for Work there just because it's not allowed, but that's another website I use. I have a ton of different social media, so you could definitely check those out if you want.
So what's your handle on Twitter?
My handle is Imagined Angie. And the Imagined has a capital I and the Angie has a capital A, I believe.
Is your Patreon currently up?
Yes. I don't do taboo content on there really. It's mostly well, it's all adult characters just because that's what Patreon allows. But I do a lot of alternate versions of pictures, so there's lots of content on there already.
Cool. So people can support you on Patreon.
Yes.
Well, that was a great episode with you, Angie, and you're welcome to return with us at any time. It'll be great.
I might consider it. This was fun.
Yeah, it was great talking about this stuff, and you're a great guest.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love talking about different ships. It is actually really fun because it's such a huge place. But yes, thank you for joining us. And yeah, if you ever want to come back, we'll be more than happy to have you again.
Well, feel free to message me because I might say yes.